So at this point here, so Duncan has arrived at the castle. We know from the previous scene, hope this will stop lagging. We know from the previous scene that they've made this decision to do the murder. Lady Macbeth says to Macbeth, leave the rest to me. I will plan the murder. We now see how two-faced she is as well, because she goes and she greets Duncan, and she basically lies to his face about how much she loves him and is happy that he's there. I'll do Duncan. I need a Banquo and I need a Lady Macbeth. Michael, who would you like to be? You can be a Banquo, yes. Max should. Lady Macbeth, excellent, thank you. Right, so Duncan arrives. This castle have a pleasant seat. The air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses. So he turns up and he basically says, isn't this place nice? Right? The air, so he says the air is gentle and sweet and it's nice. So he says, it's a nice place. Of course, we know that what's happening behind the walls of the castle is they're planning to murder the guy. Right? But he kind of turns up and he's a nice guy. A pleasant seat basically means that it has a nice location. Like where it sits is nice. Banquo. A bit louder, please, Mike. Right, so Banquo says, we know it's a nice place because birds choose to make their homes here. A martlet is a bird. Now, back in the day, all these birds had like symbolism and meaning. But all you need to know is this. Banquo says, yes, it's a nice place to be because the martlets make their nests here. Right? This bird have made his pendant bed and procreant cradle. So they have their what's a baby bird called? Like their bird children. Chicks, yeah, thank you. So they have their chicks there. He says the air is delicate. So these guys have no idea what's actually really going on. They say everything seems so good. Enter Lady Macbeth. See, our honest hostess. The love that follows us sometimes is our trouble, which still we thank as love. Herein I teach you how you shall bid God build us for your pains and thank us for your trouble. So he's grateful to her because he says, look, I've brought all of my army with me to this place. You're our hostess. Thank you so much for taking us into your castle. Now remember, there's an idea that the host has a job and it's to protect their guests. So that is the job of a host. If you host somebody in those days, if they're in your castle, your job is to protect them. Lady Macbeth, please. Well, before we turn over, so she puts on a bit of a false face here, but notice she speaks a bit like a witch, right? Every point twice done, then done double. So she's saying that we have worked really hard, we have put double effort in, but she sounds her way of speaking is a bit like a witch, right? Because witches go double, toil and trouble. What's foul is fair. So she's kind of mimicking their way of speaking. Turn the page, please. Yeah, so loads our house. So he's brought his troops with him. And basically she's just being like, it's really nice to have you here. But of course she's planning to murder the guy, so she's being a bit two-faced about it. Where's the Thane of Cawdor? Who's the Thane of Cawdor? Macbeth, good. Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We caused him at the heels and had a purpose to be his purveyor, but he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, which is important. The spur is the thing that you have on a boot, so that's a boot there. The spur is that thing, do you know what I mean? That thing there. So when you ride a horse, you dig the spur into the horse's side, makes the horse go faster. have holp him to his home before us. So where's Macbeth? He rode really fast and he got home. Why is he not here? Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight. Okay, so again, his view is deceived, isn't it? He says in the previous part, oh, it's really hard to tell what people are really thinking, and he does the same thing here, right? Where's Macbeth? Lady Macbeth. Yeah, give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly, and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess. So there's an idea here, which is that he has no idea. He has no idea what he's walking into. Now, straight into Act 1, Scene 7. Okay, don't be scared by this, but this is one of the great pieces of writing that this country has produced in terms of displaying how a person thinks. So whilst this is going on, so this is happening same time as 1.6. By that I mean Act 1, Scene 6. So whilst they're talking, Macbeth is on his own, and he is thinking. Okay, so he's on his own. He's thinking aloud. So this is another soliloquy. Okay, remember, soliloquy is when a character thinks their thoughts aloud for us to hear them. Okay, ready? So here's what he's thinking. If it were done, when it were done, it were done quickly. What's he talking about? The murder. Good, thank you, Zach. The murder, right? It. Now notice, he never says the word murder. It's almost like he can't say it. If it were done, when it is done. So notice the way his mind is thinking, right? If I do it, when I do it. What's the difference between that? If and when. If and when. Yeah?
If it's like we're still thinking about it, and when's like if we decided.
Good. So he's still in between, right? You're absolutely right. So we've got if, circle it, and when. If it were done, when it is done, it were best it were done quickly. So he's talking about the murder, right? If the assassination, now that's the first time that word is ever used in the English language. He makes that word up. Assassination means it's a political murder. If you assassinate a person, you're doing it because they're a powerful person. If the assassination could trammel up the consequence and catch with his surcease success, but that this blow might be the be-all and end-all here. Okay, this is complicated, right? But it's actually kind of simple. So, the word trammel is an old word which means to gather. To gather up. So if you trammel something, you like if you have lots of stones, you put them all together into one handful. So he says, if this murder could gather up all the consequences and catch with his surceases his death. So if I could just kill the king and there's no consequences, then this could be the greatest thing I ever do. Right? He says it's the be-all and end-all. Sorry, be-all and end-all. So he has this idea here, which is that one action equals forever success. So when he says here the consequences, he's like, if I could just like control this. So if I kill the king, and I can control the consequences, with his death, I'll be successful. But this blow, meaning the murder, might be the be-all and end-all. The be-all is the king. The end-all is all of the problems in my life. Okay. So he kind of has this idea. Sorry, the blow. So this blow is like the death blow. If I could just do it, if I could just do the murder, that one action could make me king. But, so remember, whenever we see a but, it means a change in thought. Okay? Here upon the bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come. So he says here, the bank control of time. Now this is referring to time as being like a river. Okay? We jump the life to come. So he says time is like a river, right? It flows. It flows. And the idea is that no person can change the flow of time. That you go with the flow. He says if I do the murder, I can jump over the river, right? I can defeat time. I can become something different. I can change my own fate. But in these cases, we still have judgment here. We but teach bloody instructions, which being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips. Now a chalice is like a cup. So he says, here's the problem. He says, if I could just do the murder, if I could just kill it and become the king, that'd be great. I could change my destiny. But here's the problem. People who do violence, bloody instructions, often then become the victims of violence. You ever heard of the phrase, what goes around comes around? That's what he's saying here. So if I do murder, then that murder will come back to haunt me. It is like drinking from a poisoned chalice. Now a chalice is a gold cup. So the king, becoming the king, is a bit like having a golden cup, but inside is poison. So I'm drinking my own poison. So I'm going to destroy myself. Now what's interesting about this is that he's absolutely correct. This is what happens. He predicts it himself. He creates murder and the murder comes back on him. He's here in double trust. First, I am his kinsman. What's that mean? Family. Good. And his subject. So he says, number one, I am his family. Okay. Number two, he is my king. Strong both against the deed. And then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. So number three, he is his host. So he says, this is not a thing I should do. There are so many reasons why I shouldn't do it. He's my family, he's my king. I'm his host. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, have been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels. So he is a good king. He's a good king and person. So number four, he is a good person. You okay? Trumpet tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heron's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. So this, he says that essentially there'll be sort of God's punishment. That tears shall drown the wind. So the people will be upset. So he comes up with four reasons why he shouldn't kill the king. He says, first of all, he's my family, he's my king, and I'm his host. But also, people love him, right? Who wants to be, it's like who's going to be the next Liverpool manager, right? Who wants to follow Jurgen Klopp? No one's going to love you as much, right? So why would I want to follow him? They'll be so sad that he's dead that they'll never accept me as king. So he talks himself out of it. He rationalises himself out of doing the murder. He says, I want it, and if I could do it with no consequences, it would be great. But I know that I can't, and I know that I shouldn't. Then he gives his most famous line, I have no spur. What's a spur? That thing, the boot thing. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent. So intent is ambition. But only vaulting ambition. which overleaps itself and falls on the other side. He stops his sentence halfway through. So he says, I'm a bit like a man riding a horse. I'm not going to draw a horse, right? So he says, this is what I'm like. I'm like a man riding a horse, right? I want to go fast. I want to be more, but I don't have the spur. I can't make myself do it, right? And actually the risk is that I will leap too high and fall. So he says, I have the ambition, but I don't have the ability to do it. Who does that sound like? You won't notice, you weren't here. Go on. It's what his wife says about him, right? So she is. So Lady Macbeth is correct. She's correct. He says he has desire, but can't act. And he makes the decision that he's not going to do it. So she was absolutely bang on right. And you see here, what makes this so good is that you see somebody who is actually going through a thought process. If I could just do it, it'd be so great. I could be everything. I could change my fate. But it's risky. If I do it, it may come back to haunt me. Plus, I shouldn't do it anyway because of all these reasons. I can't do it. Yeah? Happy with that? I can't do it. I can't do it. Right, and who wants to play my wife? You've got to have a go at me. Right, so you've got to be, if you want to do this part today, you've got to be pretty aggressive with me. Anyone want to do it? Oh, I see. So we want to read, when it's nice you want to read, but when it's, you've got to actually be aggressive. Ruth, thank you. Okay, you feeling aggressive? Yeah. Right, you're annoyed at me, right? Because I've told you that I'm going to do it, and now I'm going to tell you I'm not going to do it, and you've got to be irritated, right? Enter Lady Macbeth. Is everyone still with me? Enter Lady Macbeth. How now? What news?
He has almost suffered.
Supped means that he's eaten, like supper.
Why have you left the chamber?
Why have you left the chamber? So the chamber is what we're talking about here. Of course, is the dining room. So he's snuck off, and she's come and gone. Why did you leave? Well, has he asked for me?
No, you not have.
We will proceed no further in this business. He have honoured me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people. Now I like this bit, right? I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people. What's he talking about? Yeah. So he's popular, right? Because he won the battle. So he goes, life is good, right? He have honoured me of late by making him caudle. So he says to his wife, these are my reasons. Now notice, the reasons that he gives to her are different from the reasons that he says in his mind. So he's almost trying to persuade her. He says, he's honoured me lately, and people like me, which would be worn now in their newest gloss. So he says, at the minute, I'm shiny, right? Everyone loves me. Not cast aside so soon.
Was the hope drunk, wherein you dressed yourself, hath it slept since, and waited now? You look so green and pale, at what it is so freely, from this time, such as account thy love. Art thou a fool to be the same in thine act, thine own act and valor, as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life?
Good, you're doing very well.
And live a coward in thine own esteem. Letting I dare not wait upon eyelid like a poor cat I would be.
So she goes, WTF, right? You told me that you would do it, and now you're not. She says, were you drunk? Right? Were you drunk when you said you would do it? Right? Was the hope drunk? When you dressed yourself. Now, dressed yourself means to be the king. So when you came and told me 10 minutes ago that you were going to do it, were you drunk? Right? Were you out of your mind? Were you not thinking straight? Have you slept since and now you're Now you're having a hangover. Okay, so like, are you having regrets about this? Of what you did so freely? So she attacks him, right? Now remember, she is his wife at a time when women had no rights or authority. So he says, we're not going to do it anymore, here's my reasons. Now normally she would go, yes honey, but here she goes, no. What? Were you drunk? Were you drunk when you said that? Don't need those, please. Were you drunk? Are you now so green and pale? Art thou afeard to be the same in thine act and valour as thou art in desire? So are you afraid to fulfil your desires? So this, of course, is true, right? So are you the kind of man that will say something and not do it? Are you all talk and no walk? Would you have thou esteems the ornament of life? Ornament of life being power or being the king, and live a coward in thy own esteem, laying I dare not wait upon I would, like the cat of the adage. Now this is a story. There's a story about a cat. It's a story about a cat afraid of his reflection. So he says, are you like the cat in the story that won't cross the water because he's scared of the other cat? So she attacks him, right? And she uses things that she knows will trigger him. She calls him a coward. She calls him a drunk. These are things that make him seem like less of a man. Prithee, peace, please, be quiet. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none. So he says that he wants to keep his honour. If he does more, which is the murder, he will lose his honour. Good, that's a good quote there, right? Now, durst means dared, right? So she attacks his masculinity. She says, when you dare do it, then you were a man, right? So a man is somebody that does what they say they're going to do. Carry on, please.
And to be more than what you were. You would be so much more than small a man. No time, no place. They then here, and yet you would make both. They would have made themselves, and that their faces now. God I make you. I have given suck, and the nose how tender is to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipples in his
Well, let's pause there for a second, because that's taken a radical change, right? So just don't turn the page, please, right? So she says, like, okay, fair enough. If you've changed your mind, then what was the beast that told me the plan? The enterprise is the plan. Okay. So what happened to that guy who was so confident, like a beast, right? Like an animal who just does stuff. Where's that guy gone, right? Where's my man who splits people in half on the battlefield gone, right? When you said you would do it, then you were a man, right? And if you do it, you'd be so much more than a man. So she tries to, she plays on his masculinity, and she says that actually, if you want to be a man, men do this thing. Men are brave. Men are courageous. She says that you made the choice, right? Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both, right? You have made it happen. And then she says this, which is very interesting. She says, I have given suck, and know how tender it is to love the babe that milks me. So he says that she's breastfed. Now this is interesting, because the Macbeths have no children. Okay, they have no children, and yet she suggests that as a couple that they have lost their children. She says, I know what it's like to breastfeed a baby. I would, whilst it was smiling in my face, pluck my nipple from its boneless gums. Any guess what she's going to say? Turn the page. And dash the brains out. Had I so sworn as you to have done this. So she says, now, she says, I would take a baby, my own baby, off my nipple, look at its smiling face, grab it by the legs, and dash it against the wall if I said I would. If I said I would. So she's saying to him that I would do the most extreme thing to keep my word, and therefore you are a coward, because you have broken your word. Okay? But it gives you a sense of what kind of person she is, right? She says, I would do that. If, this is the key bit here, if I sworn as you have done to this. So in other words, she says, I would keep my word no matter what. Right? If I said I would do that terrible thing, pluck the baby from my nipple, smash out its brains, I would do it if I said I did it. If I swore I'd do it, I would do it. Now, of course, remember that she is trying to manipulate him. We don't know if that's true, but what we do get a little sense of is that at some point these two have lost their children. Are you right? At some point they had babies, and those babies are dead. She says, I knew what it was like to do that. So you get a sense that maybe there's something happening in the past here. If we should fail.
He failed, but in your courage chooses speaking faith, and will not go.
Good, right, pause there one sec. So he says to her, what happens if it goes wrong? Right? Because he's very worried about the consequences. What happens if it goes wrong? AKA, the murder fails, or we're caught, right? And she says, then we fail, right? So what? But screw your courage to the sticking place and we'll not fail. So now she's trying to persuade him, right? So she can see that she's had a little bit of an influence on him. So, Lady Macbeth, carry on please.
When Duncan is asleep, where to the rather shall his days hard burden, and soundly invite him. His two chamberlain will I with wine and with ale to convince that memory. The water of the grave shall be appeased, and the receipt of reason a limb left only.
Good, well, one sec. So here, she says she's going to drug his guards. So she's going to give them in the wine and the wassail, which is like a sort of like a sweet honey drink that they have back in those days. So I'm going to put drugs in them that will erase their memories. They will knock them out and erase their memories. So erase. There we go. So it's going to erase their memories. Keep going.
The water of the grave shall be appeased, and the heat of reason a limb left only. When in finished sleep that drenched natures lie, and in a death, that what cannot be unconformed of the unguarded day.
Good. So it says here that their sleep will be like death. So they'll be in a deep sleep. It says when the guards are drugged and they're asleep and they can't be woken up, what can we perform on the unguarded Duncan? So it gives them their chance. Yep.
What not put upon his sponge on the roof, he shall bear the guilt of our great fall.
Yeah. So then they're going to blame the guards. So what she does here is, in this bit here, is she gives him a plan. So she basically goes, he goes, what if we fail? She says, we're not going to fail. I've got a genius plan. We'll drug the guards. They'll be so deeply asleep with no memory that they won't know they didn't do the crime. And then we will blame them for it. Right? Easy. She goes, easy. Yeah? Drug them. He'll be unguarded. Kill him. Blame them. Easy. Here's his response. Weird response, but it's a long time ago. Bring forth men children only. For thy undaunted metal should compose nothing but males. So he goes, whoa. So he's impressed him, right? He goes, wow, what a great plan. Your plan is so good that your body can only produce men. Because you are that powerful, right? Your body would crush up a little baby girl. But a boy, yeah? So he says here, basically, he's impressed, right? And a little, I think, impressed and a little surprised, right? Because his wife has this plan, and she's really ruthless and cruel. He goes, your cruelty means that you can only give birth to boys. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood when we have marked with blood those sleepy two of his own chamber, and used their very daggers that they have done it? So he kind of adds to the plan. He says, let's use their daggers and cover them in blood, and then they'll be blamed. So when it says, when it be received, he means, will people believe it? Will they believe, or will they question? Okay. So he's going to frame them. Lady Macbeth, last bit.
We dare receive the other, as we shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon his.
Yeah. So who would dare not to believe it? We shall make our griefs and clamour roar upon his death. So they're going to pretend to be sad, right? So we will convince them, right? We'll be like, oh my God, look what his guards have done. And they'll believe us because we will sell it. We will sell them. We will sell the story. I am settled and bend up, each corporal agent to this terrible feat. So he says, you've convinced me, right? I'm convinced. I am settled and bend up, each corporal agent to this terrible feat. So again, terrible feat is the murder. Notice they never say murder. They say deed, they say it, they say feat. Yeah. Corporal, so corporal is physical. So he says all the parts, if you like. So everything, I'm going to put everything into this. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide false face must hide what the false heart doth know. So he says, fairest means so with beauty. Says, okay. He goes, right. You persuaded me. I'm in. Okay. Let's go and pretend that everything's fine. Right. The false face must hide what the heart knows. So we've got to keep it a secret. Right. So this is a little bit more secret. This is a little bit more of the whole flower and the serpent, right? Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. So ultimately he agrees and gets ready. Okay? Because they have to wait. So it's right, let's go back. Sorry. Back to dinner. So that is the end of the first act. So what you see in this act is that Macbeth is given the prophecy, and then he makes the decision. At the end of Act 1, he decides, let's do this. Even though he knows all the reasons why he shouldn't. His wife persuades him. Okay. What I'd like to talk about is this, please. So she does a number of